How you doing, sir? I'm here to interview you about some questions about the history of sports. Okay. The first question I have is, can you tell me a little about yourself, like where you was raised at?
Yeah, I was born and raised outside of Detroit, Michigan, a suburb
Okay.
called Dearborn Heights.
I lived there before. When did you first know you were interested in sports?
I can't remember when I wasn't interested. So probably age 5, 6.
5 or 6. Okay. How was sports different back then than it is now?
At what level?
The professional level.
Money was a big difference. There was more loyalty, it seemed like, but of course the players weren't able to move around very much in terms of from one squad to another squad, so whether or not that was loyalty or suppression or restriction. Easier for more accessibility for fans to go in terms of the pricing. Those obviously went hand in hand when the players got more freedom to able to move around from one club to another. Prices were driven up, and then that got passed along to the consumer, which is us, the fans. Playoffs were a lot shorter with fewer teams. Seasons were more sectional in terms of certain seasons were were the fall, winter, spring, and now it's like hockey's going to be starting up in August now, and it just ended a week ago. Basketball's going to be starting up again, and it just ended last night. So anyway, the seasons are longer. So that's from that aspect. You can watch more games now. Much more. We only had 3 stations back then. We didn't have ESPN, didn't have Fox, didn't have all ESPN 2, 3s, 4s, and 5s, etc., etc. So yeah, things have changed with media costs, fan base, fantasy sports, betting on sports. To the point of you can bet how many runs, like in a baseball game. I can bet up and over 7 or 4 or whatever the odds are. So you've got that aspect of it too.
So basically, it was a lot changed since then. Who was your favorite athlete back then?
Back in the day?
Yeah.
I like Al Kaline, who was with the Tigers, played right field. Youngest player ever to win the American Batting Championship, and Gordie Howe, who's with the Red Wings. He was also one of my favorites. Dave Bing, now the mayor of Detroit. Went down to see him a lot at Cobo Hall when I was in high school. So those would probably be 3 of my favorites: Dave Bing, Dave DeBusschere. Graduated from UAD High School, UAD College in Detroit, and I think at age 22 he became a player coach. They had a player, a professional player on the team who was also the coach of the team. Go figure. Wouldn't happen now, would it?
Never. Okay. How has the role of sports changed over your lifetime? But for you, how has the role of sports changed for you?
Roles or rules? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Roles. For you, also for society.
And for society?
Yep.
It changed. I mentioned this earlier about things that I think for those who are into it, it's a lot bigger factor in people's lives.
I agree.
And probably it's expanded. And again, that revolves around money. College sports has also gotten bigger. Here's my take. I think one of the reasons why humans are attracted to sports teams and are so avid fans part of their association with a sports team is for them. So if a team wins, that makes them feel better. And that's almost from a cultural perspective a very sad state, because then part of my ego, or my part of my self-worth is based upon if Michigan State wins or loses, or if you're a Notre Dame, U of M, whatever, it doesn't matter who it is. And that's a sad state on our individual development as people, that we have such a strong attachment, and even we'll have these rivalries with friends who, let's say, went to other schools, whether or not it's high school or college or whatever, and we have these major rivalries, and we get into fights, and I mean fights sometimes. And that's almost a sad state, that it's reached a level of importance that we've dehumanized our own self-worth and have funneled it towards another organization or another structure, that if you look at sports in general, what it is, it's entertainment. I didn't think this when I was younger, but now I just view, because from my pocketbook, it comes out of my entertainment budget. Going to plays, going to the movie, going to a sporting event, that comes out of my entertainment budget. And so I think that's an appropriate place to put sports, and not elevate it to this high supreme thing where it is right now, because it's entertainment. It's a place to escape from my problems, an escape for me to root for who I want to root for, and yell at the refs if I want to, and that gets out some maybe anxiety and anger and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I should not put winning or losing in a particular game above my own self-worth, or attach it to my self-worth.
Very interesting. Okay, last question. What do you think about the issue of drugs in sports now?
That's multi-layer answer to that.
We can just talk about professional sports.
But the influence on the professional sports scene, then it comes down to college, and it gets down to high school, and it gets down to even into middle school now. And again, I think it goes back to my earlier comment that sports and winning in sports is such a high pedestal that there's a mentality of win at all costs type of thing. I think the sport needs to police itself better, and not have government come in and try to get Roger Clemens and other whoever might have used doping, or Lance Armstrong. I think they got to clean up their own act, because I think if it keeps going, people are going to spend their money someplace else. And I'm sure they've thought about that, but they think they're so powerful and whatever. I mean, each of these sports, Ricardo, we could take any one of them. I think the sport itself are the ones that should be doing the policing in their own best interest. And I think you need to have leaders in the individual sports, including golf. I mean, it doesn't matter. Including bowling, I don't care. But the point is, each sport should take care of their own. And I think it's gotten way too out of hand, where we've got all these other agencies, and our tax dollars are spending millions of dollars to go after Lance Armstrong, or to go after someone, and I don't give a rip. I'm sorry. At the same time, I think people's records should stand, regardless if they were caught doping or not doping, or steroids or whatever. From my opinion, because there might have been a whole heck of a lot of other players that person played against who didn't get caught. And they still were trying to hit home runs, or be the best pitcher, or score the most goals, or have the most free throws, or whatever. So just because you got caught because you were high profile, or were stupid enough to get caught, doesn't necessarily mean the other guy was innocent either. I mean, so I think you just let the record stand. He hit those many home runs. He was pumped up, maybe, but he was pumped up. So what? Because I think if you start going down that trail, we didn't have